Yes, look, thank you so much for coming down tonight. In this election, I do think we need to have a really important discussion about the way your rates money is spent. Here in Brunswick, we are seeing the most significant burden across the municipality as our property values continue to rise. That's hardest hitting those who are less well off. It's hardest hitting the elderly within our community who may have chosen to buy here 30 or 40 years ago, having absolutely no understanding of what the property values were going to become in several years' time. So I really want to have a discussion with members of this community about how we can respond to those concerns, how we can measure our rates in a way that's equitable for all of our residents, but also how we can continue to deliver the services that are most important to you. Those bread and butter issues like aged and home care, like trying to develop this area in line with the culture and history of this area, all of those bread and butter issues, roads, rates and rubbish that make this suburb so great. So I ask for your support for another 4 years. Thank you.
Thanks, Meghan. Right.
Yeah, I'm really interested in seeing more of these kind of dialogue happening in our city, much more engagement with the people in our neighbourhoods and amongst ourselves and between ourselves, and where those points are starting to rub and actually test us out a bit like we've had tonight. So I'd like to see far more of that happening. I think I've got some of the experience and some of the ability to listen and to work with those kinds of dialogues, and I really look forward to being able to work with you and other people in the municipality around that. Your vote is powerful because you can continue to do the same old and have the old parties determine what happens to the city of Moreland, which is the state government determines a lot of the rules. You heard that tonight. And the Labor and the Liberal and the National people have determined that for years. Or you can double your numbers of Greens councillors on council, and you can see some real change happening and see some real open space happening and so on, rather than just a lot of structural plans that have taken more than 10 years and sat on ministers' desks. That's hardly efficient, hardly satisfactory to you, and I would hope that we can actually see things much more productive and much more fruitious. So I look forward to being able to do so.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, go to Mel.
Oh, it's me next. There are people in this room not sitting up here that should have been, because there are a lot of people who do amazing work in coordinating and convening and learning about stuff, and I mean the people in the Brunswick Residents Network, and I probably mean Antonia, who does incredibly detailed work in understanding the policy that affects us all. So again, looking at this Melbourne Cup field, don't forget there's another election in 4 years' time, so get ready and put your hand up.
Thanks, Mel. Samantha.
Thanks everyone for coming out tonight and for the very engaging dialogue and for the excellent questions. There are a number of issues that this city has to grapple with and this council has to grapple with in the next few years if we're going to create a city that people can actually live in and breathe in and move around in. And one of the keys to that is ensuring that our environment is protected. The zero carbon evolution is something that we're very proud of at council. It'll see us getting to 22% reductions in emissions by 2020, but we need that target accelerated, and with that will come the transport revolution to sustainable transport. We will see the greening of the streets with more than 5,000 trees planted a year. It's the more open space that's going to be created because that's going to cool our cities. And just in response to a couple of, I just wanted to make a quick couple of responses to a couple of assertions made before. In terms of policy and politics, and I know we want to keep the politics out of local government, you need collaboration and cooperation, and diversity of voices is really important. In terms of electing Greens to council, what you will get is policy coherency, and on this council we have been coherent with our policy. We put a full policy platform out before the last council election and we have stuck to that, and what it means also is that we're accountable to those policies. One of the proudest decisions I was part of was to say no to more pokies in Glenroy this year, over the last year. Some Labor councillors voted against more pokies, most of the Labor councillors voted for more pokies. So if you want to have policy coherency, integrity and transparency and accountability, please choose your next councillors very wisely.
Thanks, Samantha. Okay, to Jess.
I'd also like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. It's communities and meetings like this that really make this happen. I'm a volunteer standing up here because I care and need to reflect that. I want to be a strong representative for my community and represent the Greens team. We want to hold local government accountable, transparent, and make sure it's as participatory as possible, ensuring that we're meeting the needs of the community and that the policies and resources and infrastructure are prioritised in a way that meets that need. Thanks.
Thanks, Jess. Over to Joe.
Look, I I think it's shocking that you have to pay $60 in order to rent this home here. I'm serious. I think that when we talked about facilitating community involvement, it's about spaces. It's about meeting rooms. These are the sort of things that the old Brunswick that I reminisce about used to be about. I reminisce not because I'm an old man, that all the things in the past were good and all the things present are bad. On the contrary, if I say that in the old Brunswick, I talked about some of the old experience in terms of, we used to be known as being the leaders in recycling. We introduced the first separation recycling in the state. We recycled paper and glasses back in the mid-80s. We were the first one in the state of Victoria. So in terms of, for example, one of the things that I really feel very strongly about, one of the many reasons why I decided to to come back to council, is that we still have some of the old, very old colonial remnants in terms of ruling the council. We have 12 months changes of mayors every year. The only state in the world, the only state in the world where mayors are changed every 12 months. In most other states in Australia, mayors are directly elected by the people for the full 4 terms. And so there's so many other structural changes that I could talk to you about it, that I feel very strongly about, and I think that it's really sad that local government is held in such a low esteem.
Thank you. Okay, Dino.
All right. I guess my big message is diversity. I think we need diversity on council. I'm just wondering. No, everyone else got to talk about the Methven toilet, so I'm going to talk about it. The Methven private toilet. Did anyone on council talk about it? The fact that it might be a composting toilet. Was that ever floated? We don't float the composting toilet. It's all about. So basically, the idea is, I don't understand. We're at 10 centimetre sea level rise at the moment. Once we get to half a metre sea level rise, no one's going to be able to flush their toilets. So if there's anyone on council that doesn't quite get their head around climate cataclysm, right, then it's important. We represent our community. We need to be strong voices for our community. We need to we lead by example and say, hey, this is what's going to happen. Your sewage system isn't going to work anymore, in a few decades, or maybe less. And this is what we're going to need to do. We're going to all need to start composting our shit. And we are going to need to start growing our own food, and we're going to need to start loving each other a lot more. And
Not all at the same time.
So that's my point. Basically, is that climate change is real. It's about to kick us in the ass, and I think we need diversity on council. So the same 2 major parties that are dragging us headlong into hell just need to get out of here, and I think we need change. Thanks.
Thanks, Dean. Lambros.
Okay, thank you. Well, when you vote for me, I'm a member of the Labor Party, but I'm not beholden to the Labor Party. So I vote with my conscience on every issue, and I vote after listening to the community and what they say. So I don't think a lot of it is about the politics, and it certainly shouldn't be on council, because we are community representatives and we should be working as a team. Look, I think there are 3 major issues, priority issues in the next council. I've mentioned open space. I think that is one of the key things that Brunswick needs. Open space is going to be a really tough challenge, but it's got to be the #1 priority. It is because we have an increasing population. It comes down to planning. Planning is the #2 key issue. How much people can our city really take? How much density can our roads sustain? Is it contributing to traffic? Of course it is. Is it contributing to our services? Of course it is. We need to get the planning right. We've done a lot on planning. Planning was completely out of control 8 years ago, even 4 years ago. We've got the majority right. We just need a little bit more. Rates. Pensioners, single income people can't afford to pay. I like to see a cap on rates, not based on some land tax from the 19th century, but a tax. At the end of the day, if you're one person in a property, you're only going to put your waste out once. Why are you paying rates based on the value of your property? It should change. The system doesn't work. It's not fair. It's not equitable. These 3 areas I'm passionate about. I will pursue them in the next council if re-elected. I seek your support to continue to work with the community. We've got a lot of achievements. We've done a lot of things together, but there's more to be done.
Thank you, Lambros. Dave.
I'd just like to thank everybody for inviting me along this evening. My background's on the internet there for you to have a listen to, if you have a look at it, if you've got any doubts about that. It's good to see some, some young candidates. I don't have much doubt in any of the candidates here. I think they're all very good candidates. But one thing I'll say about the ALP and the Greens is that their youth wing, their youth organisations still have developmental steps to be taken towards dealing with custodial issues of the last generation that are still arising in this corridor. And I just also want to just raise the point that in addition to Department of Housing, we also have to remember that housing cooperatives are going to be of vital importance to this local area. And I'm supporting the introduction, I support a lot of the local factories around this area, and we need to start considering the production of Commonwealth prefabrications in this area as part of that rural and regional underpinning that we have on that, and that demographic rotation that relies on this area for all those social purposes. So thanks very much for having us.
Thank you, Chris.
So thank you for having me as well. It's certainly been, the last 8 weeks has been the biggest job interview that I've ever had. But you've got a great group of candidates here. You've got great independents, you've got young progressives, you've got experienced councillors. So I ask you, when you make your decision, choose your preferences wisely. You elect 3 people for the next 4 years, and you've got a good choice on the bench here. You can choose people from any walk of life, but as I said at the beginning, it's important we have young progressive people on council involved in decision making in the community. A lot of what we do affects the future, and we need to make sure that mix is there, and I ask for your support. And if you don't support me, I'd ask you to support another young candidate.
Thank you, Chris. And Ray, you're a lucky man, you get the dog vote and you get the last say tonight. So,
for starters, I really appreciate. Actually.
Have I jumped over Kelly? Kelly, you can have the last word. So okay, come on, you can have a donkey. And the last word, you get second last word. Sorry, Kelly.
A few things have obviously been mentioned, which comes last, but I think it's really important, obviously, that your vote does count. I mean, in terms of priorities, I've probably outlined already in terms of sustainability. Lambros has already touched on it. Open spaces is obviously a critical area that a lot of people say. To Lambros's point, it's obviously an opportunity there, but obviously I believe in terms of what I said before, open space planning isn't just car park spaces. We need to do a lot more in that area. And as an advocate for that, I want to see more open spaces in that. The rates issue, we need to tackle the rates issue. We need to have fairness, especially for our pensioners. The rebate is not enough, $213.80, and the Department of Human Services says it's a 50% discount. It's a joke. It needs to be looked at, and at a council level, we also need to touch on it as well. We can't just rely on the state government to do that. We need to have a part in it as well to ensure fairness in that area. So for me, I'm very passionate about the area. I do care about Moreland, and obviously for the future generations and for yourselves. And my main objective is sustainability. You can read more about me on my website, yourvoiceinmoreland.com. It outlines more of my commitments and more promises, and feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. I appreciate it, and thank you again.
Thank you. And Kelly, would you like to wrap up for us?
So basically this election, it's going to touch on all these issues, especially planning and services, and we need to decide what we want. And so what I hope to bring is not only retaining the characteristic of Brunswick that we all love, but planning for the future and making it the area we live in more accessible for everyone, not just a select group of people. As everyone said, there's a really great group of people here, and despite the political differences, we agree on a lot of the same issues, well, despite some differences. But yeah, I enjoy voting.
Thank you, Kelly.